I'm Dr. Heather Monthi from the About the Tea and STEM podcast, a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of the individual host. Make sure you check out the other great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com. And get ready because the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, edumagicians. I am Dr. Sam Fessich, the host of the EduMagic podcast. I am a professor of education at a liberal arts college in western Pennsylvania, where I have the honor of teaching pre-service educators each day in areas related to educational technology and special education. As you know, I published a book in 2018 titled EduMagic, a guide for pre-service teachers. I had no idea that pre-service teachers would take to it as they did. I heard so many stories from around the world of future educators, I knew I had to do something to share their stories. So, enter Stage Right EduMagic podcast. Each week, you'll receive tangible advice and strategies to help you rock your college career and be an educator of excellence. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin when you walk across the stage at graduation, but instead, teaching begins during your first college class at 8 a.m. So, let's get the party started. Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to episode 7 of the EduMagic podcast. I'm here to share with you the one thing that you need to do right after a teaching interview. If you tuned into episode 5, Job Interview, nailed it, then you learned about 10 tips to help you conquer the job interview process. If you didn't tune in yet, don't worry, press pause, go back, trust me, you'll thank me later. All right, EduMagicians, are you ready for the one thing that you need to do right after a job interview? This one thing can set you apart from other teaching candidates. Who wouldn't want to stand out from the crowd? Are you ready to know what it is? It is, wait for it, a thank you note. A thank you note can really go a long way after the teaching interview. For example, it brings you top of mind to the panel. It adds a personal touch and a notion that you're serious about this career or this job posting at this school. And lastly, it's just polite. I read 2 articles to help support this episode, and they're both from Kappa Delta Pi. In the first article, which is titled Thank You Letter, KDP, or Kappa Delta Pi, notes that a thank you letter should be sent within 24 hours by mail to each of the people who interviewed you on that committee or that panel. So what should be in a thank you letter? I'm so glad you asked. Let's talk about some top tips that you should relay in your thank you letter. We're also going to cover a few formatting tips and layout as well. So in case you have some of those questions, we'll cover those next. As always, EduMagicians, as a special thank you to my listeners, I have a PDF of a checklist that we're going to go through and even a sample thank you letter template. All you have to do is go to www.sfessich.com/06 and there you'll see a PDF checklist and a template that you can go through. So if you're not in a place where you can write notes, don't worry about it. I got you covered. So here we go. Buckle up. Let's get into some top thank you note content tips first. When you're writing out your thank you note, write one to each of the individual people that was on your committee. Address them by name. Thank them for their time, their consideration. And a pro tip, check your spelling and use the correct format for the person's name, for example, Dr., Mr., Mrs., whenever you're addressing them in your thank you letter. Next, you want to mention something specific from the interview. Maybe you want to share an example that you explored or explained in your interview question. Maybe you want to touch upon a specific teaching story, a teaching moment, a favorite lesson learned, or something that you learned about the district or the school building. Maybe you went on a school tour and you want to bring to light some of the ideas that you gained from the tour. For example, you checked out their library or their tech lab or whatever it may be. Bring something specific up in that thank you letter from the interview. Next, make sure you reiterate your excitement for the job posting and why you're excited about it. Share something that you can bring to the table for this job posting. For example, maybe you're interviewing for a 3rd grade position. You can write something like, I am excited about the 3rd grade opening at Awesome Elementary School. I know I'll be able to bring my passion for STEAM activities and integrate them into the curriculum to make hands-on learning experiences for my students. Something as simple as that. So you're talking about the job posting, what you can bring to the table for that job posting, and why it's going to help in your students, which is most important. We got to focus it in on our students. The next tip is, did you forget to mention something in the interview? Maybe you forgot to mention a teaching experience, a learning opportunity, a professional development experience that you had. Now is the perfect time and the perfect place to share it, as long as it relates to questions posed by the committee. You just don't want to shout out there something. Make sure you relate it back to the interview and relate it back to the question posed. Next, you want to leave it open at the end for conversation or dialogue with the district administrator. For example, simply just adding something like, I look forward to discussing this third grade opening further, can really do the trick. So you're putting it out there that you're interested in the job and that you want to talk about it more.
This is Chris Nesi, founder of the Education Podcast Network. ISTE 2019 is right around the corner, and we're hosting an Education Podcast Network meetup. Come out on Sunday, June 23rd at 6 p.m. at Pat's King of Steaks and meet all your favorite Education Podcast Network podcasters and connect with other listeners. We're going to have an old-fashioned cheesesteak challenge. We're going to eat at Pat's, we're going to eat at Gino's, we're going to have a good time, talk podcasting, and we'd love to see you there. Come out on June 23rd at 6 p.m. if you're going to be in Philly for ISTE 2019. I look forward to seeing you there. Now, back to the podcast.
So let's talk a little bit about layout. So just as the song says, signed, sealed, delivered, you want to type your letter out in a font that's easy and clear to read. Sorry guys, no Comic Sans here. You want to have that professional vibe to your letter. Print it out and sign it with a real pen. Yes, get your fuzzy pen out. Cue the clip of Clueless with Claire's endless supply of fuzzy pens and sign that letter. If you have a knack for penmanship, I do not, you may want to write your letter on personalized stationery. This can add a more personal touch to each letter. Or maybe you want to create your own stationery. And guys, that's super easy to do, especially in Canva. Canva already has beautifully created templates. All you need to do is add in your content, and you can customize each of the thank you notes for each of the individual people on that committee. Maybe you want to jazz up your thank you note a little bit. I would consider adding a QR code to your thank you note. This QR code can link to your digital portfolio. The interviewer can zap it and get connected with you immediately. How perfect is that? All right, so we talked about some tips for thank you note content, some tips for thank you note layout. Let's talk about organizations. Maybe you're applying to lots of different schools in different districts. You want to make sure that you don't send the wrong letter to a district. You also want to make sure you get everybody on the interview committee their own individual letter. So in another article written by Kappa Delta Pi called After the Interview, and I'll have links to both of those in the show notes, make sure that you have a way to organize your thank you note. And one tip that they had is to have a tape on Excel or whatever tool you want to use. You can have a list of the district. You can have a list of the individuals who interviewed you on that committee. And you can have a little checkbox. Did I send the note? Did I not send the note? This is a great way to keep organized and keep track of who received the letters and who did not, making sure that you didn't duplicate or, even worse, send a thank you letter to District A that's really supposed to go to District B. Talk about a facepalm moment. All right, edumagicians, remember, the one thing that you need to do after that job interview is to send that thank you note. It can really go a long way after the interview. It brings you top of mind to the panel, it adds a personal touch, and it shows that you're serious about that job posting. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and for all the tips explored in this episode and for a thank you note template, just go to www.sfessich.com/06. That's www.sfessich.com/06. Enjoy! There you have it, friends. Remember that you have the EduMagic within you. I need you in my professional learning network, so please make sure that you subscribe and share all that you are learning and doing in and out of the classroom with #EduMagic. Until then, I'll see you next time.